website developer, and we're recording now. And then ASBA's digital solutions mentor, who is well known for his down-to-earth approach to business driven by KISS principles, which I'm sure he'll go into a bit more. He specializes in analyzing your digital solutions and optimizing them to ensure that they work for you and earn their keep. So over to you, Jason.
Thank you, Melissa, and welcome everyone to this wonderful webinar that we're going to get started very shortly. So I'm assuming that most of you have either thought about getting a website, or you've already got one, or maybe it's just on your list of things to do in 2022, which is a really good thing, because as I'll discuss, if you haven't already figured it out, COVID has really changed the face of business in our century, whatever it is. I think we're still in the 21st. But yeah, everything's digital, everything's online. If you're not, you're kind of missing out on business, or there's a good chance that you are missing out on business. So this is going to be a really quick introduction to a few major platforms that are out there that you'll either heard about or seen advertised, and possibly ones that you haven't. These are the ones that I commonly use or recommend to small businesses during my mentoring. And I believe they are some of the best solutions on the market. Look, there's new stuff coming out all the time. They may not be the most up to date, but you don't always have to be the trendsetter trying out what's the newest. You need tried and tested solutions that are economical, first and foremost. So without ado, I will share my screen and we will get started with the slideshow. Now, as Melissa said, if anyone's got any questions, feel free to just send a message in the chat. I'm going to try and pull up my chat box so I can see it while I'm presenting. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. Can you see my chat box, Michelle?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, well, I'll move that.
Oh, I can't see your one.
No, you can't see my chat box? I'm not exactly sure what you can and can't see on my screen. But actually, I'll plug in my second screen.
I can just see your presentation.
Oh, that's good. Just 2 seconds. Yeah, that's better. All right, here we go. So you can build a website yourself, and here is how. This is going to be a full-on 1.5 hours, maybe a little bit extra if you can stick around. There is a worksheet to take home, and of course, you will get the slides sent to you. Probably tomorrow, I'd say, by Melissa. So about me, I'm a Wangaratta local for 5 years. I was debating whether to call myself a local because, I'm not sure what the threshold is, but I've been in town for 5 years. I was born in Shepparton, but I've been here, there and everywhere. As far north as Cairns and then as far overseas as Canada. So I'm a husband and father to a 2-year-old daughter. My wife is Canadian. I've been in the digital marketing space for 7 years. I started off as a copywriter, which is a guy who writes text for websites. I actually started writing blogs for a US-based med spa, is what they're called. A bit of an interesting one. I specialize in digital strategy, website builds, tech support, and SEO copywriting. And my website is hcdigital.com.au for High Country Digital. And there's my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to stalk me afterwards. So what we're going to cover today, do you really need a website? I always like starting off at ground zero, and you don't always need a website. There are some cool free tools out there. Google has some great things, and you've really got to take advantage of that before you go and invest in a website. And if you do decide to, there's things like your domain, choosing the right platform or an appropriate one for you, and then setting it up, going through some fundamentals. And I've got some couple of videos of some dashboard walkthroughs. And there's a link to my website planning workbook, which looks a little bit like this, which you'll receive the slideshow, and then it's just a link in there, and you can open it and save a copy. And for each of the slides during the slideshow, that cue when it's time to do one of these activities, and they're really helpful for you to nod out and really get started with some structure. So, step 0, do you actually need a website? Why have a website? Well, because it's 2022 and your customers expect it. COVID-19 has accelerated what was inevitably going to happen with the digital age, and you need to be online in some way to capture eyes that are on their screens. It's a marketing space that you can own with a website, unlike social media and directory listings, which you're still at the mercy of the actual platform. For instance, Facebook, when they do algorithm changes, you can just fly off the edge of the universe. All of a sudden, you might have been doing really well, getting good traffic, and then all of a sudden, bang, it's gone. And so you're at the mercy of things like Facebook. But on your website, that's less so the extent. You can provide information about your business or products, services, value proposition, whatever. And it's totally customizable. You really have the freedom to do what you want. If any of you have tried to create a Facebook page, for instance, or even a LinkedIn page, you're very limited of what you can display and how you can display it. You really have to use their templates. With a website, the world's your oyster. You can do what you want. Although the caveat to that is it is good to have some sort of set structure, and we'll go into that later on in the fundamentals of building your own website. You can reach additional customers who may not find you via existing channels. So if they're not searching on Facebook and they're not on Instagram, quite often people will start with a Google search, and that's where a website comes in. Google does pick up Facebook in particular, not really Instagram. It can pick up Twitter posts and things like that. Instagram is a bit of an oddball. It's off the radar a bit. And then don't even ask me about TikTok. I don't go there. I'm not that generation at the moment. But yeah, Google's very powerful in picking up a lot of things, and most powerful in picking up websites. So having a website is a good thing if you're trying to capture Google search results. You've got more control over design and data. As I said, you're not stuck to a rigid template based on the platform like Facebook or LinkedIn, etc. You have more freedom to make it look and feel as you want. There's really no other way that you can conduct paid advertising other than directing sales to some sort of landing page or website. There are hybrid website products like website builders that can do the job, but quite often Google and Bing and whatever marketing platform, they can detect whether or not it's a legitimate website, and they won't accept those links anyway. So often you need a proper website before you can do any paid advertising. Yep, customization, going through that. Individuality, that's another good one. When you're in a marketplace such as eBay or Etsy, you're really at the mercy of the market, and it's very hard to stand out other than price. Where you have your own website is where you can really display your individuality and your creativity. And a lot of that, it's sort of like being dressed to impress. The more you can dress yourself, sometimes the more you can charge for what you sell. So it is a bit of that as well. You can put into your website and charge a premium. And it's often cheaper to sell on your own website. The transaction fees are less. For instance, eBay now sold something the other day, and I think it was 13%, up from 11%, which is a massive cut. It makes me think twice about using eBay. Etsy, not so bad, but they do have a cut, like most, Amazons, they all take cuts. But there can be advantages into using those, which I'll go into. But the website is the center of a digital marketing strategy if you decide to have one. And that's what I mean. It can be a funnel for everything. So if you do TV ads, quite often you'll funnel them to a website. If you do any email marketing, it'll go to your website. If you do ads, website. Search engine optimization and leads from search goes to your website. It's something you can control, and it's something you can gain avenues of traffic from so many different sources. Whereas social media, it's generally one stream. But do you actually need one? Not all businesses benefit from a website in the early stages. Marketplaces may be better to build confidence and capital to invest in a website later, even if it means paying higher fees in the short term. I'll go into that a little bit in a moment. Websites, unfortunately, are not the golden ticket that people think they are. You don't magically, if you just create a website and publish it, you don't magically show in search results, for instance. It normally takes at least 2 weeks for Google to do its thing and pick up. And then comparing you to the competition, well, if they've been around longer, it's highly likely they're going to rank higher than you in the search result. So it takes time, good 6 months, 6 to 12 months to start seeing any beneficial results without paid advertising. This is just organic results. So once you've got a website and publish it and you just leave it, within 6 to 12 months, you can start seeing some really good results if it's been done right, but it won't be instant. And one thing to remember is, as my old boss used to drill into me, websites are roughly 1/10 of a marketing budget. The real work comes in getting traffic to your site. Like I said, having a website doesn't mean you'll magically get new sales and visitors. It's just an avenue for them to potentially find you. And there's a lot of work in getting them to actually get there and do something. And websites cost a lot of money. And there are other ways to make sales before investing in a website if you choose to look down that road. So you can consider these alternatives, and I've already discussed a couple. So if you're selling products, there's some digital platforms you can look at, eBay, Amazon, Etsy, Catch. You can sell directly on Instagram and Facebook, which is a great way if you've got the right business for it and you're a very visual and very active on social media type business. You know, you can sell audio on Spotify and make money. You can, if you've got art, there's Art Lovers Australia, and there's many more, I'm sure. If you're a services business, so you're a window cleaner, or if you're coaching or website designer like me, developer, there's things like High Pages, Google My Business, Facebook, Yellow Pages, Local Search, True Local, and I'm sure there's other industry specific ones that exist out there. So there are options and there are reasons for considering these options. Directory sites are those that you pay to have a listing in rather than controlling the site yourself. And the advantage of these is they're very easy to get started. If any of you have ever put anything for sale on eBay, super easy. You create an account, all you've got to have is pictures. Like you don't even need that a lot of the time. You can now copy a product that's already listed. So if I'm selling my old phone, Google Pixel, I can choose to import someone else's listing of a Google Pixel and then just change what I need to sell it and make it individual. It's crazy. Like you barely need anything to get started. It's so easy. They're low cost to begin with because it's normally pay per transaction. You don't have yearly fees or monthly fees or anything like that. It's just a pay per use style model, which is great for getting started if you're not confident that you've got high volume to pay for business tools. I always try and get businesses to think about when you're starting off and when you're getting online, what's the cheapest way to do it if you haven't got a lot of cash? And then you can scale later on when your income and your revenue starts to become big enough that you can afford to splurge on these fancy tools and having a beautiful website. But I always like to encourage people to start small and then scale when you can afford to do that. And the other advantage to directory sites is you can be found by an audience who's specifically there to take action. So when someone goes to eBay, they're ready to spend, they're ready to buy. Whereas when people go in a Google search and search for something and they may happen to land on your site, it may have been by accident. Like there's less of a chance that they're actually there on purpose and more of a chance that it was through sheer curiosity or something like that. So when people are on these directory sites, they're there to buy, they're there to take action. But the disadvantage is there's a lot of competition. If you're selling a widget, there's probably 50 other people that are selling a similar widget, maybe even the same one. So price definitely becomes more of a selling point. There are higher selling fees once you make the sale. As I said, eBay is something like 13% now. Whereas if you were to sell on your own self-hosted shop on your website, you're looking at sort of like 1.8% transaction fee. So it's far, far less. And that's just to take credit cards. And there's less flexibility in design. Like you literally can't design your post on any of these. You just slip your photo and your text into their template. And like I said, your pricing's at the mercy of the marketplace. You can only charge so much before you'll just price yourself out of competition just because you're too far from the norm. So, but if you have your own website, you can be more in control and you can stand out and make it more unique, have a much higher value proposition or perceived value proposition, and charge more for that. And subscription models and all sorts of things. You can do really creative stuff with your own website, but you can't with a directory. So Google My Business, it's free to list. Now, Google My Business is simply if you were to use Google Maps on your phone, and if you were to look for, a florist in Wangaratta, for instance, and you get my favorite, which is Seed and Bloom, they've got a Google My Business listing, right? So it's free to have one of those, and every business should have one. Despite what you may think, you don't actually have to publish your address. So you can have your home address listed, for instance, which I think I do, but it doesn't actually say my home address. It just says I service Wangaratta and surrounds. So it gives a radius. So anyone can do it, no matter whether you want your address on there or not. And it's just, you got to do it. Google loves Google products. This is a free one, and so many people use it. And there's a high amount of value in collecting reviews on Google My Business, and I'll look at that later. So you simply go into google.com/business, and if you haven't got one set up already, you can create one, or click get on Google, and it'll walk you through. It's very simple. They will send you a verification code in the mail to verify that you're a legitimate human being and have a legitimate address somewhere. It usually comes from Malaysia and takes anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, so it won't be live until you receive that. So here's an example of in a search result. If I look for dog training in Wangaratta, another client of mine, the Doggy Diplomat, she comes up straight away, is a Google Maps listing result. And that's how, if she wasn't in Google Maps, she just wouldn't be in the first results there. This has got nothing to do with having a website. This is simply her being listed in Google with a Google My Business listing. So it's really powerful to have, and it's free. Basically crazy if you don't have it. And you can also get a free Google site. So what it does is some pretty crazy magic in the background. Once you've got it all set up, you can opt to have a free site where it simply uses the information that you've plugged into the dashboard. You can put photos in there. It puts, your phone number and your address and opening hours and reviews and whatever. And you can get a powerful Google-owned URL website. So this is, everyone can get like a basic, very, very basic website presence instantly for next to nothing. All you got to do is spend about 10 minutes setting it up. And people can Google you and find you. And if we have a look at this is the example. This is actually my neighbor. He's got a lawn mowing business. That's his logo, and got an update at the moment. You can do like little blog post updates, business updates. These are some testimonials that he's gathered. These are just some photos he's got. He hasn't put many photos up. It's got his business hours. It's got a call now button. It's also got a quote, get a quote. So it's got some Google messaging system, and I could put in my name, phone number, and my email address, and then just send a quick message, and it goes straight to his inbox. So it's a very functional and basic website, and it basically builds itself. So it can be really handy just to start off with that, and it at least gives you some sort of presence online. And again, it's free. It's just amazing, really. And it's a Google product, so it actually has a good chance of showing up in search results because Google loves Google. But okay, so you've heard all that and you're going, yeah, there's all these little things, but I want a real website. So this is for you. If you want a real website, you've got to start with your domain name. So your domain name is simply the www.whatever.com.au or .com or .org or .co or whatever. Could be anything. There's so many variations. They're growing all the time. Some are stupid. And really not worth their money. If you're in Australia, which you are, if you're local, the best thing you can get is a .com.au. You need an ABN to register a .com.au, but you can create one of those for free. So, there is really no reason you can't get a .com.au unless it specifically doesn't, like someone's already taken it. And there's a few different types of domain name that you can create. So you could have a branded domain name, example, Digital Treasury, or, highcountrydigital.com.au, which I also have, as well as HC Digital, but I shortened it, as I'll discuss shortly. Being simpler is better. You can have a partial brand and a keyword, and a keyword is a term that describes your product or service. And they're really super valuable because that's what Google uses to categorize your website or your business and rank it with other businesses or other search results. So, if I was to do websites, which I do, I could have High Country Digital websites, or I could have High Country websites. That would be a reasonable choice. I specifically didn't, because at the time I created the company, I wasn't specifically focusing on websites, whereas now I do. So it allows me to be a little bit creative with what I offer, not pigeonholed. Or you could have a location-based keyword. If you're really specific to one location, you could have a website designer, Wangaratta, or Wang websites, or Wangaratta websites, or Wang website designer Melbourne.com.au. That's a bit of a mouthful. I probably wouldn't start going that big, though, yeah, it depends. Your domain name is your new age IP, which is your, what IP stands for anymore. Anyway, it's valuable. And you can really get creative with it. And if someone else owns it, then you can have some creative differentiations, or even go to a .com or something like that. Or there's now .au that's coming out very shortly. If you're choosing a domain name, have a look at combinations, as I said, brand and service, or just the brand if it describes what you do. Sort of like I had a client, Kieni Shoes, and they were a shoe shop. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Their brand actually says what they are. Venova Dental, they're my dentist in town. Their brand actually says that they're a dentist. So it's sort of a match that's made to be. KISS, shorter is better. As you'll note, my business is High Country Digital, and I do have highcountrydigital.com.au, but it is a bit of a tongue twister, and it's even harder to write down, especially when you're on the phone with someone and you're just trying to give out your details quickly. highcountrydigital.com.au, and they've got to write it down. HC Digital is far easier, far more succinct. It goes on to promotional material easier, business cards and stuff. It's shorter. So I like to, if it makes sense, to make them shorter rather than longer. And for instance, with highcountrydigital.com.au, it does a thing called redirect straight to High Country Digital, HC Digital anyway. So, if anyone was to type it in, they'll get to me anyway. I own both of those. There's all the different variations. .net used to be a big one. .net.au. There's .coms. There's .com.au. Obviously, don't get too fancy. I've seen .tv. There's .sexy. There's you name it. They've just about come up with it. But don't get too creative. People expect it to be .com.au most of the time. Especially, you've got to think about the average user of the internet, and the average user, well, if we go anything on demographic, it's an older demographic and they're not used to things being too crazy. So stick to what works, stick to the fundamentals, which is .com.au, and only, like, some tech companies will have a .io or a .co, something like that, and those can get away with it because of their audience. But think of your audience and what they're likely to expect from you and what they're likely to want to type in. And for most part, it's .com.au. And also .com.au's generally get better search results because Google understands that .com.au is an Australian domain. Hence, people searching in Australia, it will favor Australian websites with a .com.au and show them in results. That's not guaranteed, not proven, but it is highly likely that will happen. No one actually knows what Google does. It's their secret sauce, and it's changing all the time. Use keywords if possible, like websites or cat sitting or pet sitting or hairdresser, and avoid hyphens or numbers and crazy things like that. Again, it's just convention, and people expect things to be a certain way. And it's very rarely that you'll get hyphens, underscores, or whatever in a domain name. It can just be confusing and ask people to question whether it's legitimate, or they may just think it's a typo and not put it in. And then you've lost your customer because they couldn't figure out what to type into the URL. So yeah, don't get too creative. Got to sort of dumb it down and think of the lowest common denominator, because you need every one of your visitors to convert. The domain provider I recommend, ventureip.com.au. I had a client in today and they'd used one called registry.com.au or something. They're thieves. They're charging $99 or something. I don't even know how they're in business, but I'm throwing it out there that they are just wrong. There's a few others that are like that. These guys are 100% Australian. It's like $15 for a year for a .com.au. It's a no-brainer. They don't try and rip you off. So I recommend those guys. And so there's an activity in your workbook, which is all about choosing your domain name, and in your own time over the weekend or whenever you've got time, you can pull up the slides and go through that workbook. All right, once you've got your domain, choosing a platform. Now I'm going to discuss 4 main platforms here today or this evening. You've all heard of Shopify, and they're great, don't get me wrong, but they have their place. WordPress, you may not have heard of those guys, but they actually power more than 60% of all websites on the web. And there's a reason for that. Wix has been around for a while. They're sort of gaining a little bit of traction, but probably not as much, because they don't think they advertise as much as the likes of Squarespace or Square. Square is a new and upcomer in the market now. It's been around for a while, but since they launched their IPO, I think it was in 2020 in the States, they've really gone on in leaps and bounds. And then see now they've teamed up with Afterpay and all sorts of things. So I love Square. I use them. I recommend them. But there's times and places to use them, which we'll look at. So let's dive a little deeper. Actually, before I go on, was there any questions? Did anyone have any questions on the domain stuff? I'm assuming most of you probably have a domain set up already. A lot of people start off with their own domain, even for having their own email address. I've got another client who's come to me for a new website, and yeah, he's had his custom domain email set up for a while through Microsoft Office or whatever it is, and he hasn't actually got a website. So quite often I get clients that are in that position. So they've already gone through that step, but sometimes there's people that haven't, that are starting off from scratch. Can't see any messages, so I'll keep on going. If you do have any questions or want to get some feedback, just send through a message in the chat. There's a chat button down the bottom of your screen. So here's what I recommend. Overall, I recommend, if you can afford it, outsource to a reasonably priced professional so you can focus on running and improving your business. Complete the what is my time worth exercise. For instance, I charge $88 an hour. So if it's going to cost me, how much time is if I don't know how to do something, how much time will it take to learn the skill, implement the skill, and deal with all the corrections and whatever. And could I earn money to pay someone else to do it? Quite often, the answer is yes, I could. Now, I'm not trying to. That could sound like I'm trying to sell my own service, and in a way, I am, but in a bigger way, I'm not. I'm really trying to get you to think about what is your time. What's it worthwhile you focusing your attention on? Because look, I build websites every day, and it's frustrating, even when you know what you're doing. And that frustration and that stress that comes from frustration can really derail a lot of things. And some people just really are better off not having that extra load in their life. So it's a good thing to it's great being a DIY bandit and trying to do everything yourself. But I think there's certain times for certain DIYs. So just have a think about that. But if you do want to DIY it, and if your time is poor and your skill is low, well, outsource to a professional. And like I've said, if your time is good and your skill is so you can figure out your smartphone and upgrade to the latest version when it comes out every year or so and not get too bamboozled, you might be able to go with a website builder. And if you've got an e-commerce or a brick and mortar store, Square is a great option because they have the point of sale system syncs with the website all in one. It's really good. Shopify does as well, but it's a little bit more expensive and it is a bit more, it is more powerful, probably better for a global solution or a very, very big online store with lots of products. You'll see a lot of big brands use Shopify. If you've just got a basic services, like if you're a plumber or if you're got a dog walking service or something like that, and you just need to collect email addresses and contact forms, services-based websites could consider Wix. It's really good and can be easy to use, and it can be really technical and a powerful tool. And if you've got plenty of time and you've got good skills, you can enter what's called a self-hosted service with WordPress. And that WordPress has the advantage of being highly flexible and customizable, and it can grow infinitely in power and functionality. It's got a much cheaper long-term cost, much cheaper. Elizabeth sends a message saying she's got a website for hollyhouse.com.au and it's WordPress. Do I still need Google Business? And is this different? Yeah, well, Google My Business is a business listing on Google Maps. It has nothing to do with websites. Like I said, might have been a bit confusing. It can spit out a website for you if you didn't have one. But no, yes, you still need a Google My Business listing, which is totally separate from your website. Do I prefer particular templates in WordPress? Yeah, I go into that a little bit shortly, so I'll wait until then. I do use a certain system that's free and that's very, very, I find quite easy and straightforward. It takes a lot of time and effort out of the process. So here's my ranking matrix for the solutions. And you'll see that WordPress is a clear winner here, simply because its functionality and cost are just so good. Functionality, it's got things called plugins, which are basically like apps. Well, actually, they all do. Wix does, Shopify does, Square doesn't. But they have things called apps or plugins, which add functionality to the website. It's a bit like adding functionality to your smartphone, really. So you've got a camera and whatever, and you can make it do all these other things with these apps. And a lot of them are free. Shopify, they're not. Most of them cost money. Wix, same deal. So that's where the cost quickly balloons out with the other solutions, whereas WordPress, it's a massive global community of developers creating tools to make it better. And most things you can get by with for free. So it makes a website really cheap to have in the long term as a running cost, because the monthly fee is very low. So it may cost a little bit more to get it built by a professional, but long term, they're often the cheapest way to go. You're looking at the life cycle cost of a website. WordPress is the one that's cheapest. They all require some sort of learning and familiarity before your confidence can be achieved. It's just like anything, learning a new skill. And all are very hard to break. They've all got built-in backups and a history. It's a bit like using Microsoft Word. When you make an oopsie, you press the back button, the undo. They've all got that built in, so they're really good like that. But WordPress does require the most setup before becoming functional, and is much more difficult for non-tech people to get their head around it. But once you do, it's not so bad. WordPress is the cheapest option for long-term, largely due to the hosting cost. And the hosting cost is simply it's a price that you have to pay. It's basically rent for a computer, space on a computer that sits in a warehouse, running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with super good security, power backup, so it virtually never goes down even when there's a power failure and all these sorts of things. it's not really realistic to have a website sitting on your personal computer and having it connected to the computer. It would, if you started getting a lot of website traffic and you were successful online, your computer would probably fry. It'd be that taxed. Couldn't handle it. So, but these big servers can. So that's what hosting is. And your website builders like Shopify, Wix, and Square, they have their own hosting. It comes with the website builder. It's built in. You can't choose where it is. You just get it with the fee. But WordPress, you have the ability to find your own. It could be, I think there's Dutch Media used to be in town there in Wodonga. I think they do hosting. I offer hosting, but it's through a wholesale company out of Sydney, and they're really, really good. It's actually a sister company of Venture IP. And there's several around Australia and around the world. If you get GoDaddies, they're quite often based in Singapore or some odd place that's overseas. Sometimes if you pay for a premium plan, you'll get a local one. It does pay to go local, and I'll discuss that in a minute. But you can see the cost comparison. I did update this a couple of days ago. So that is the latest cost that you will pay for the platforms. WordPress one is if you choose ventureip.com.au. So see, Wix starts off at $13.50 a month. Shopify is a massive $38. And don't be fooled, because the prices that they advertise are in US dollars. So that's a rough conversion to Australian dollars. It will vary depending on the exchange rate. It's roughly $38 Australian a month and $4.56 a year. WordPress with Venture IP, it's as low as $5 a month. Square, there's a caveat there. When I was using Square for clients, there was this cool feature where you could it was a shortcut to connect your domain. So you could use your own domain name, and it would only cost you $7 a month. I'm not sure whether they still do that anymore, because they don't advertise it. And if they don't offer it, then they're actually $15 a month or $180 a year. So it'd be WordPress, Wix, Square, Shopify in terms of cost. Kerry Warburton, hi Kerry. She asked, my organization uses GoDaddy to update our website. Is GoDaddy the platform? GoDaddy is your host. That's where your website will be stored, I'm guessing. They offer a website builder of their own. So it may be that your website is on that. And if anything else, your domain might be purchased through them. It's a bit complicated. You can have your domain purchased through one company and your website through another, or they could be the same company. Yeah, it can get a bit complicated. And that's when I'm starting a new job with someone, it's the biggest hurdle, is trying to nut out their accounting, basically, where they've got all this stuff stored, because quite often some other tech guy has done it for them. And unfortunately, they don't really understand where it all sits and what's happened. But yes, I think that's where your website's stored in GoDaddy. So there's another activity in the workbook. This is just a prompt slide for you later on when you're going through it. Bit of a stopgate, so you can go there and complete that exercise. Does anyone have any other messages while we're on a short change? I think it's going well for time. So part 3 is, once you've figured out what you're going to do, setting it up. So you got to think, when you decided you want a website, well, what's the purpose of this website? Website, I always try and get through to people, a website is a costly business tool. It can cost you as little as $60. It can cost you as much as $500 a year. That means it needs to have a strong purpose, and you want to have it work for you. You want to have it be the tool that it could be to make your life easier. And so after all, that's what the point of paying money is for, to get something back out of it. So, but a website can be to sell products or services directly to customers via an online store / e-commerce. You could generate leads, and that's collecting phone numbers, email addresses, or even taking direct appointments on a website. If you go to my website, you'll see that I have a cool booking plugin called Calendly. I try and get people to book a time with me using that calendar as much as possible. So, you know, my site has a purpose of getting bookings. And then that's great because it's convenient. People can choose a time that suits them. They've got a high chance of it suiting me because it's directly linked to my calendar, and I know I update my calendar when I'm am or aren't available. So there's no back and forth. You know, high probability of being able to talk at a set time. And it's indirect selling. It's a place that it can be a marketing portal for your brand. You can have stories. You could have general information. Say you're an accommodation provider in the King Valley, for instance. I know one of you on here is. It might be a place that you go to be the go-to on events in the King Valley region, or maybe it's tips and tricks for holidaying in the King Valley. If you didn't have a local chamber of commerce or some group that had an active online presence, you could potentially step up, take the lead there. And in doing so, and having all these really great resources to advertise your region, end up getting a whole heap of business from that, because naturally you show up on search results when people search for things to do in the King Valley, for instance. And while they're checking out your blog and what's going on, you've got little buttons over here saying, by the way, you can book accommodation. I'm available this weekend. And so that's great strategies that websites can be used for to get this business. That would be getting organic leads. And you've just got to think about, when you're creating a website, what your visitors want to see. Think about the customer journey and the customer acquisition. And then after I've worked with clients, both big and small, over the years, I've learned that visitors want to see these 5 elements as soon as possible on your web page, on your homepage, because that's the highest visited page on any website, and the one that you're most likely to market. What you're offering. Number 1, they come on your website to learn about your product or service and how it will change their life. People are interested in transformations. There's sex, money, that all sells big time, and that's for a reason. It's like built into our core of things that we want to improve and things that we value, whether they be shallow or not. There are things that we value. So what things can you do and can you offer to improve people's quality of life and transform their life? A revolutionary accommodation experience. It might be some face cream that they didn't know about, or it rivals oil of Olay, or whatever it is. And of course, after you wow people with your offer, people realistically want to know the price. A lot of websites will sort of mention that last, or try and hide or skim over that fact, because they're trying to push that my product's so good that you don't even need to know the price. You'll pay anything. But I like to be a bit of a realist and think that there's probably more sensible people than not out there. I mean, there are some just loopy rich people that'll pay anything based on what you say, but I think there's also a high majority of people that actually are conscious of what they're going to pay. So just spit it. I like to spit it out sooner rather than later. Be upfront, be what your price is, but then really push what they're getting for that price. Here's my offer. Here's about me. Learn my artisan story of being this French-inspired or trained baker from the southern Rhone region of France or something. What's my, and obviously legitimate, story to really increase my perceived value and allow me to justify me in demanding such a price for my products. Your story and your about is actually, if you look at the stats on website pages visited, your about page is highly likely to be the second most visited page on any website that's out there. That's because in this day and age of widgets being copied and sold with a different brand name on them, it's super easy to do it, white labeling. Your main point of difference is often you. It's the person behind the business. It's that local. It's that person that they're going to be greeted by when they check in. It's the person that's going to, it's the person's handwriting that writes the custom thank you card in the box that gets delivered to their front door. And who's the person behind the ink? There's only one you, and that's the easiest way for you to differentiate you and your business. So use it. Social proof. What others are saying about doing business with you. And this is a big thing because it highlights the trustworthiness that you portray to the world. And this comes from testimonials and reviews from clients that you've worked with, ideally, or the man next door, if you can convince them to leave you a review on something that's trustworthy. And I encourage my clients to use Google reviews through the Google My Business listing that they've created for free. Reason is that so many people use Google, it's ridiculous. It's free. It's highly trustworthy because you need to have a Google account, which most people do, like a Gmail address, to leave a review. So it's a registered review. It's not just some random text that anyone can spam and create and forge. And it all links into Google products. And most people use Google as a search engine, and Google will favor those with more reviews. So it's in your best interest to get a high number of reviews, obviously 5-star or high star rated, than your competitor. It all links together and it all just works for you in the long term. So yeah, I like to get businesses to do that. And obviously no page is useless unless you're really making it clear, and sometimes just saying, I don't know if you've ever watched YouTube videos where at the start they do it now. It used to be just at the end, but quite often they figured that people don't make it all the way to the end they don't make it all the way to the end of a video. So at the start, you'll see them go, hey, before we get started, subscribe to my channel. That's a call to action, and it's a super obvious one. They're telling you what to do. And sometimes you really have to be that obvious and that direct because people have short attention spans. And they're just not going to make it to the end of your video. They might not make it scroll to the end of your web page. It's a bit like anything nowadays, just got to make it simple. And sometimes people like being told what to do. It just makes it super clear. So don't be afraid to have a call to action and then literally say what you want them to do. Because people need to know. So are you there? Do you want them to buy from you? Do you want them to request a quote? Do you want them to contact you first? These are all valuable things, and you want people to have the best chance of converting for your business's sake. Another activity. There's no other messages. Has anyone got any questions? There's a lot of information thrown in. What slide are we up to now? 30 out of about halfway. 30 out of 60, exactly halfway. And it's been nearly an hour. That's amazing. Time just goes. So on your homepage, summarize this. The new design trend is to summarize everything on your homepage because it's a bit like mimicking a social media feed, right? Scrolling. People want to just get clear, concise information and a summary of what you're all about, summary of what you sell, summary of you and your offers and all sorts of things. So what I like to do is have a homepage that has those 5 main things on the homepage, and they link. If you've got more details, like an about page, for instance, you have a little excerpt about you and your bio picture, and then you have a button that links across into a page that's dedicated to a full story. People want to have the summary and not have to look for it. Give people what they came for as a one-stop shop. And you can elaborate on the several pages. And think mobile experience and scrolling newsfeed. As I said, look, I've done some analysis on some clients that I've got now, and the Google Analytics installed is showing that 70% of all their traffic is on a mobile phone. It tells you whether it's a computer, a desktop, tablet, or a mobile. It was like 70%, 60% mobile, 68 or something. And then it was 20-something% desktop and 4% tablet. Like, you can forget tablets. It's just a fringe case, but everything's on mobile. And the good news is a lot of the new website designers and tools are mobile responsive. You've probably heard that phrase thrown out. I mean, it's just a built-in given now. But while a website may be mobile responsive, you've still got to think about how people view it on their phone. And there's a bit to be had in the design and the structure of it in terms of what goes where. And so the recommended formula is having a logo or menu area. Then you've got your header or hero image. And then you go into your product or services, reviews, about you, and then some call to action, contact, book, buy, whatever it is. And having call to action buttons and text throughout, just to make it very clear that you're trying to make it easy for them to take action. So let's go through those elements. This is your header, hero, or above the fold, as it's commonly called, on a website, the Pet Nanny in Melbourne. So you can see they've got, up the top, they've got their phone, they've got their email. Really easy for someone to get in contact with them. And then it's their menu. And then it says here, you've got a picture of Adam and his puppy. And it's Melbourne's home of one-on-one dog walking. Really clear. If you were to land on this website, it's really clear what this guy does. It says one-on-one dog walking. Like it's really hard to get confused there. And then a little bit more, pamper your much loved pooch with my individual dog walking and pet mining service. Oh, he actually does pet mining as well. Oh, and book your free pet greet, call to action. So what he's trying to do there is get people, and that's actually a Calendly link, so a calendar booking link. He's trying to get people to click on that and book a free greeting session. So he captures their phone number or an email address, you can add them to a database. And also he realizes that it's pretty much a done deal when he meets someone in person. Really hard to get personality and a feeling of, because it's a very emotional decision for both you and your pet to have someone else look after them. So you want to make sure the personality that you're getting involved with is the right type, and really hard to do that over anything other than a face-to-face meet. So he knows that, and he knows that just about every time he meets someone face-to-face, it converts into business. So the most valuable thing he can do is try and arrange face-to-face ASAP. So his whole website is built around that. That is his call to action. And the part 2 section is your introduction to your product and the services. The objective of this is to increase trust in your ability or your product's effectiveness. Short background educating on what you do and sell, and then you want it to be short, concise, simple language. This is actually an interesting example from a coach who uses NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. But ideally, it's a little bit, you can see it's a little bit of background information on NLP and potentially how it can help you. So it's just a bit of a background to the service that this lady offers, and to put you at ease with potentially parting with in the first stages, parting with your personal information. So her call to action is scheduling a discovery session or something like that. So it's all about giving away your mobile phone number and your email address so that you can talk to this person. And again, highly likely that once you've talked to this person, you'll be converted into a sale. If you have specific services, you can advertise these as an offering. And so the objective here is to explain specifically what you do, what it is that you do, or what you sell. And you want it to be an overview of what it is that you're offering. And in e-commerce, you want it to be your top 3 to 5 products. Don't overwhelm people with 500 different things. And with a service as well, you don't want to say that you do too many things. Focus on your top 3. 3 is the golden number. Up to 5 if you really have to be inclusive. But try and nail it down to 3 categories. And you can play around. You can change these over time. Maybe you start off with 3 and you figure that they're not working or not resonating with people. You can change that. It's fine. But the rule of 3 is very powerful. Less than 3 can work, but it's like going to the shopping center and searching through your groceries. You quite often expect there to be choice, and sometimes it's a bit limiting if you don't have that choice. So people can possibly subconsciously get a bit sort of like offended, but not really offended. Not sure what the correct word would be, but they get pushed away because there's not enough choice. People like to have choice, but then they can get overwhelmed with the paradox of choice as well if there's too much choice. So that's why the 3 is generally the sweet spot in terms of offerings. And there's another activity to help you with some of that information in the workbook that you'll download later. So we are an hour in. Everyone doing well? I'm starting to lose my voice, but we'll get through it. Maybe a drink might help. So I think we're up to slide 35. Oh, look at that, 35, didn't even know. So we're getting through it. So section 4, about your brand. The objective for this is to put your personality behind your brand as much as you can virtually, and let people know who you are and why you do business, and a bit about your quirkiness and your uniqueness, I suppose. And quite often that's your only real chance to exercise a point of difference, because, you know, let's face it, there's 1,000,001 coffee shops, and there's not as many passionate people about coffee beans themselves as there are about just simple drinkers of coffee. So your point of difference could be that you're super passionate about your beans from the Amazon rainforest or whatever, but people really just want a good cup of coffee with good atmosphere and good, just got to taste good, really, and not be a ripoff. So yeah, quite often it's actually the people behind the business and the personality they get when they walk into the store. So this is where your about can be really powerful. So yeah, who are you? Who's your team? Not just you, the owner. Who's your team? Who are the people that they're going to be facing day to day when they pick up the phone, or when they go into a physical store or have a Zoom meeting? You know, who is your team? This is your chance to have photos and bios, links to LinkedIn if it's appropriate, things like that. You can get personal. In this saturated world, it's the people that make you different and your business different. So, you know, you've got Nolan Media there, and you've got Coffee Chakra in Myrtleford, who I'm helping out as well. Lovely people, and they are full of personality. So why you? Social proof. This is where your customer needs or will go or turn to, if you have it, to learn from real customers if you offer a good product or service, if you're trustworthy, if you're worthwhile doing business with, if you do a good haircut, if you know, make a good bouquet of flowers and just generally nice to deal with, or have good food. All sorts of things depending on your business type. And it's very important for new online customers who don't have the benefit of word of mouth experience. And it's also really beneficial if you're a new business as well. So people don't know you, if they haven't heard of you, or if you're a local King Valley or Wangaratta business and you're trying to get customers from Melbourne. Melbourne's a massive place, especially a lot of people, surprisingly, haven't left Melbourne or ventured too far out. They've never heard of you. So if you've got the competition in the area, why would they choose you? Well, often it's your reviews, testimonials that will get you through or get you across the line. And you can also use them on your website as bragging rights. So if you've got good reviews, feel free to display them on your website. That's what they're there for. Plenty of people do it. The reviews themselves, best to use large trusted engines like Google, Yelp, Yellow Pages, Trustpilot. What's the accommodation and events one? TripAdvisor, things like that. They're pretty good. Ideally, you want something that you have to have an account created for, so there's some sort of verification process. Like I said, with Google, you need a Gmail account. It needs to be registered. I mean, someone could set up a false account and leave a dodgy review or a good review, but there's a lot of effort involved in doing that, so it's less likely that that'll happen. Melissa says, can you select which reviews are displayed on the website? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. These plugins or apps that you put on your website, you can filter them for 5 stars only. So, I mean, people can click through to your actual Google my business listing, and on that listing, it shows everything. Like Google is not hiding anything there. It shows honest data, but you can filter on your website and show only 5-star reviews, for instance, or show specific reviews if you wanted to feature them. More on social proof. Testimonials are a powerful marketing tool. Make them visual. Yeah, so on a website here, you can see, you know, on the right-hand side there, they've got Haze Away asbestos removal. It's got their three Google reviews, not most recent. Not necessarily the most recent, because it says 8 months, 10 months, and 7 months ago. And on the left, there's a website. If you Google review on white goods, product review is a common one. Apparently it's one for services too, but I've seen it for Aldi products that I've searched for reviews on, things like that, or white goods. Not necessarily the best place for reviews, in my opinion, but Google is a good one. And yes, you can embed Google reviews. Embed just means add them to your website. And yes, you can filter which ones are shown. And obviously another section you'll have on your website is some means of people contacting you. People have questions, or that might even be the whole purpose of your website. And your call to action is some sort of contact, or to book an appointment. So the objective for a contact area is to gather the details a customer can use. Well, it's a place for the customer to make contact with you and answer, ask any questions, request quotes, book an appointment, stuff like that. And don't be afraid to make it work for you. And what I mean by that is, for instance, as you'll see on the left there, contact me to find your way to a happier future. That's select a day, that's Calendly, that's a free booking app you can use, and that's embedded on the website. And people can select a day, select a time, and send their details through and request a call. And that's exactly what I use on my site. And I set up with a lot of people. It's free and it's very, very effective, and it makes life easy. It syncs to your calendar. It could be an office calendar, it could be a Google calendar. And yeah, if you've got an event, if you've got a booking already, then it just blocks out the time and people can't double book you. So it's perfect. Just makes life so much easier. And it's always recommended that you have a means to collect email addresses. This is the most important piece of marketing contact means that you can gather. Phone number, easy and common for people to put in fake phone numbers because people don't like getting spam calls. It's also easy for people to ignore a call from a number they don't know. All sorts of things. Phone number is very unreliable. Email is super reliable. It's very rarely that people put in a dodgy email address because they know if they do that, there's no means of me, the business owner, making contact with them. And you can use that email address in a newsletter, marketing campaign. You can save it and send deals and offers and all sorts of things. Email is still king when it comes to details to have. So at all times, you want to try and collect email addresses where possible because they can be really valuable later on. Never know when they're going to come in handy. And a call to action. We'll go into this a little bit more. People don't want to have to think when they're on your website. You want to provide them with the next logical step you want them to take. For example, call, email, visit your online store, like go to one of the categories in your online store. So it might be Nike shoes, or a lot of people have a newsletter. Now, a newsletter needs to be one that you really have some sort of strategy around, because I see a lot of websites that just say, hey, join my website, join my newsletter, but then like the newsletter never comes or there's really just no point to having a newsletter. And it's something that people say they're going to do, and it ends up being a lot of work, and there's no real reason for having it. So when there's a really good reason to have a newsletter and you've got things that are happening and deals coming out constantly, or lots of changes in your business, then it's great to have a newsletter and to get people to sign up for that. If not, forget it. You don't need a newsletter. It's just another marketing channel, a sales channel. You might be better off focusing on Facebook posts or Instagram news. So here's a great example of a call to action on Mr. Ray Edwards' website. Look at his, this is above the fold. This is what you'd see as soon as you land on his website. Ray Edwards presents a new free masterclass, 3 simple secrets of building a profitable copywriting business. And the call to action, click here, register now. Like, not only does it say register now, it says click here and there's an arrow pointing to the button. It's just great. Oh, and there's scarcity built in because there's limited seating available. There's so many great marketing cues in there. It's just great. Done a really good job with that. And then once you've got all that and the bones and the structure of your website set out, you've got to fill it with stuff. And content is still king, and words are still king of the web, of the World Wide Web. So Google, I mean, having video, having images, this is all great, but unless they've got any sort of wording behind it in the meta, it's called, it's in the technical behind the scenes of an image or a video, unless there's some sort of wording, Google won't pick it up. Search, even voice search, voice still gets convert on your mobile phone. So the big thing now is to go like, hey Google, or hey, what's the Amazon one, Alexa, and all sorts. Hey Siri, find me the best pizza joint near me. But what all it does is put in your voice and type in words for you. So it's still Google search. The web is still powered by words. It's just getting a lot easier to put words in because someone else a robot can do it for you now. So what you got to have is good words on your website, and words that correlate to your product or service, especially, and what you're trying to sell. And that's where that whole idea of keywords come in. So if I was to go, hey Siri, I want to order the pizza from the best joint in town. So what Siri is going to do, if it's smart, is type into Google for me, or yeah, it is Google, most likely, best pizza in Wangaratta. So best pizza in Wangaratta is a really competitive search keyword, but for this case, it's the best one. So if I had a pizza joint, I would want to make sure that I had best pizza in Wangaratta used multiple times on my website because it's highly likely that that's what people are going to search for when they want pizza locally. And no matter whether they type it or whether they speak it into their phone. So that's keyword optimization. And you want to have that as the basis of your text on your website. And then when you're writing for your website, you want small paragraphs with lots of white space. You don't want to have a website like reading a Monster Wilbur Smith novel or something. It needs to be really easy to digest, nice large text, color that's really easy, has high contrast, so black on white sort of thing, really easy to read. And you want to talk to the customer as if they were a real person. People like that personable approach. Having a conversation, a bit like your news feed. And short and snappy headings that really explain what you're about and what the paragraph is trying to explain. There should be a summary. Your heading should be a summary of the text above or below it. Use you, not I or we. Yeah, make it personable. Talk in the first person if you can, if it's appropriate. And address your target audience. Treat them like a human being, not a robot. And you want to make sure you talk about the problems, their problems, and you obviously have a solution for them. So that's a key trick in marketing, is talking about solutions to problems. And quite often you'll see people start off with trying to build the problem if they're not, and that makes it really crystal clear to the customer and really convinces them sometimes convinces them that there is a significant problem for which you can then offer a solution for. And you're obviously selling the benefits of your services and your products. And remember, each page that you have on your website has a purpose. And you want that to make sure the text that you have on those web pages, make sure it aligns with that purpose. Now, there's a couple of blogs and posts to help you with copywriting. not an easy skill. Not everyone's born to do it. So yeah, don't be afraid to outsource it. You can find professionals on LinkedIn. There's things like Freelancer, Airtasker, Upwork. There's probably plenty more where you can hire someone just hire them for a gig, get them to write a page for $50 or something like that. And you can just be done with it. Yeah, that's time for another activity. So we must be up to slide number 44 or so, I think. How are we going for time? 15 minutes. No questions. So we'll keep chugging along. I know this is going to be a lot to digest. You're all probably sitting there sweating with that much information coming in, and you might be getting a bit overwhelmed. No worries. You will get the slides. You don't have to take notes. You will have the worksheet, and you can feel free to shoot me an email at any point if you've got any detailed questions. I'll endeavor to answer it the best I can. And yeah, happy to help you guys out. That's for sure. I want to have more successful businesses in and around Wangaratta, because that will make our region prosper and have more cool things. Good for everyone. So some quick dashboard insights. Now there's a couple of less of me talking now and more of watching me.
Before you move on, Jason, We've just got a question there from Jude.
Jude, do you do the copywriting for the websites you create? Yes. Yeah, I do. Yeah, yes, I do. To answer your question. I started off as a copywriter. Now I create websites. It's more fun, a bit more technical. And yeah, I can do the wording. If you look, all my websites, basic wording is included. If it's writing blogs or something like that, it's an added feature. But yes, I can do that for sure. So let's have a look behind some of the dashboards. So I actually filmed some videos, some screen shares of me going into Wix, Square, WordPress, and Shopify. So you can get a bit of an idea without having accounts set up, what it looks like in the back end. So we'll see how this works. Yep, there we go. Now there is no audio. That was deliberate. Can I make this bigger? Oh, see how we go. Is that working very well? Full screen. Oh, it might be blurry. See how we go. Oh, that's better. All right, so this is behind the scenes of a Shopify store. This is the dashboard. I'll go back to the start. All right, yeah, so this is what you get when you log into Shopify. You'll notice that most of the platforms are quite similar. This is the orders. So when this company gets orders through, it's just a list of all the orders that they've received. And you can click on each one to get details on the order and the person that's ordered and their customer details and things like that, which I've blacked out. Yeah, so when you start making sales, this will be the dashboard in Shopify where you'll spend your most time. This is their products library. So this is the Kearney shoes. They're obviously a shoe shop. So all these products have been loaded in, and each of these is their own web page, which features the title. They haven't got a description, but they could. You can insert media, multiple photos, and videos. If you wanted to, you can add categories. You can do all sorts of crazy things in here to really get specific about what you're selling. Have variations. It could be color, it could be size, quantities, yeah, volumes, could be all sorts of things. This is a product page. These are really quick. They're about 5-minute videos. Just to give you a quick idea of what the inside of these platforms look like. So this is Shopify. It's a list of customers they've had purchase on the website. With all of them now, you can integrate Facebook really seamlessly. So you can log into your Facebook account and sell directly on Facebook. It actually replicates your store on Facebook, and then you can use it to sell through shoppable posts in Instagram. And there's great guides to help you do that really easily. This is great, particularly for product-based businesses like clothing, apparel, products. That was the first part, and I realized when I was making that I forgot to go through the website builder. So that was just the back end of Shopify, but of course Shopify is a website as well. So there's the website builder functionality, which we're going to have a quick look at here. And you go into the online store section on the left there, and then you click on the green customize button, and it opens up. This is very similar to Square, which you'll see later. It opens up the customizer here, where you can change the text, you can put images on the web page, you can add your logo, change the menu. I'll do some editing here in a minute. So on the right hand side, you can see a panel pops out with the editable options. So here I'm going to here we go. So on the right hand side, you can see this panel. When you click on an item on the left, it opens the panel on the right, and that's where you can make changes. And I'll go through and make a couple of changes in a minute. And there's all these different sections that have been added to the website. They've got size guides, and you can click on them on the left, and you'll see the changes that you can make on the right in the editing panel. You can make changes to the footer like this, show the payment icons, turn that off, turn it on, or your Google Pays and MasterCard, Visa logos and stuff, turn on and off. There's a lot of functions that you can change, a lot of data that you can change, but it is pretty set in a template. You can have the photo on the left or the right, change the title, and it's all shows you live. And when you're done, you click on save, and away you go. That was a brief look at Shopify. A few tricks with Shopify. Picking a theme they offer. I think there's 9 free ones that are out of the box. Pretty decent. Debut is the one I use, and that's the one you saw just there, I think. Yeah, they're all pretty good, but some are just more user-friendly than others. They're created by professional developers. If you wanted to customize it, it would cost you a lot. So just don't go there unless you're really cashed up. And the unfortunate thing with Shopify is there's only limited free choices. I think, there's only like 10 to 20 free choices, and the paid ones are quite expensive, a couple of $100 US. So not a great, I don't recommend Shopify to start off with because it's quite expensive. Everything's an add-on cost. But the great thing about Shopify is it'll do all your legal pages for you. They've got great templates for legal pages like terms and conditions, shipping policy, privacy policy. These are excellent. I actually use them. I'll go to my clients' Shopify sites and copy their legal pages because the template's that good, and then just change the business name and contact details, especially their privacy policy. And these legal pages are required if you do any paid advertising, because Google will flag your website if you don't have them, and it will just stop your advertising. So to find them, when you're in Shopify, you can go to legal pages in the settings, customize them, and you add them to your menu items so that they can be found, obviously. So we'll have a look at Square. Square is actually quite similar to Shopify. As it loads. Tech is having a meltdown. Maybe we'll try coming back to that one. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right, so this is what you'll see when you log into Square. There's a lot of functionality because Square is a point of sale system as well. Some people might be familiar with Square. They use them in cafes. It's the little white square thing you wave your card over. Well, it actually has a website functionality behind it. You can have a free website if you want. You can start off for free, but you'll have to use some Square domain name. You won't be able to use your own. So this is a product library. This is editing a product similar to Shopify, displayed a little bit differently, but all the functionality is there. Putting in variations. You can put in images, videos, custom attributes, colors, SKUs, all sorts of things. So when you use Square and you're selling merchandise or products, then you'll use the item library quite a lot. And you can see there's just a bunch of settings on the left there. You can set your shipping, you can set postage and taxes and all sorts of things. Yeah, you can see transactions, look at all the revenue that you've collected in your dashboard, print out reports, and they all offer this functionality. And then online is where you go to modify the website. This will open up the Square website builder, a bit like Shopify. So it takes a bit to load, and then once it's loaded, oh, we're not there. This is in the website version section. So then we go to website and then edit the site, and that'll load the builder. And a bit like Shopify, it opens up a panel on the left where you can adjust the main sections. Now, we've got the header, which is the menu and the logo that you'll see. And then here we're adjusting the banner image, turning it on or off. We can change the image, change the font size, type something different in there. All pretty easy to do, but very limited in where you can place things and what elements you can have on the page. It's very much templated and very limited in terms of its customization. But sometimes you don't need it to be infinitely customizable. Sometimes you just need structure and you just need to get started. And that's why I recommend this for a lot of people, because it's just easy to get started. There's not too many things. You can do it. DIY is much, much easier. There's heaps of help guides on the internet, how to do it and how to get started. So it is something you could literally do in a weekend and be up and online taking sales. Melissa asks, can you create a Square site without a card reader? You sure can. Yes, you do not need a card reader to use Square. I actually use Square for taking credit card payments, and I don't have a Square reader. You can just use Square as the Square platform. It's very good. It's very good. And I could create a free website on Square without purchasing the Square reader. Square reader is really only necessary or helpful if you do in-person sales or market sales. And again, it has the ability to connect Facebook and sell to Instagram and Facebook, and it'll help you set that up automatically. Seamless. It's so good. I think Square does it better than Shopify, personally. It's super good. It's really great. So there are advantages to going to these website builders. They do make it easy, whereas it's a bit more manual labor with something like WordPress. So Square tips, you can adjust the SEO settings for each individual page, as seen in the page settings, and you click on SEO, and you can adjust the title and the description, and that is what shows up in Google search results. Highlighted in blue is the title, and then the description is below that, and that's really key to you being found and for your products and services being found in search results. And of course, you can connect to Facebook and sell online. So here's a screenshot of Flynn's down the road on Murphy Street. I helped him get started with this, and he's doing really well. So you can see in his Instagram post, you can see the squash banana-rama is actually an item for sale, $89, and that will link straight to their website. So it's great. You can be in Instagram, click on that, and it'll channel you straight to their website where you can buy their product. Super great. Makes it very convenient for people to buy, and it is the new way of selling. That's for sure. But the caveat is you do have to be quite active on social media. Otherwise, no one's going to see it. Yeah, and you can add pop-ups to the website as well. And there's the abandoned carts function, which is all built in. It's all included when you have a paid plan, and it's super powerful, really good. Shopify may have it. It's highly likely it costs extra. All right, we'll have a look at Wix. Wix is a bit more confusing. I don't love Wix, what they've done. This is what you see when you log into a Wix website dashboard. It's got so many things there, so many things. And I've never used most of them. They've got Facebook and Instagram ads. There's SEO. It is good. Like these website builders like Wix, Square, Shopify have some great tools where they'll walk you through things. So you don't really need to know much. You just need to follow their prompts. Getting connected to Google, getting connected to Facebook, Instagram, it'll walk you through all that. Here's the contacts section where you can see this is actually people that have filled out a contact form on the website. They get stored in a database. Yeah, there's just a bunch of menu items. But what's really most important is when we go home, we want to go into the site editor, which is the big blue button, or relatively big blue button on the top there. I'm going to click on the site edit, and that'll load the editor. Now, this Wix is fully customizable, really. It is much more versatile than the Shopifys and the Squares, but it can be really complicated. It's really easy to add things and delete things and really make mistakes because it is infinitely customizable. So it's a bit more advanced. They do have a lot of great built-in templates that you can use to get started. And so long as you don't do too much mucking around with the templates, then it's pretty straightforward. But if you're a little bit more advanced and want to create something that's a bit more customized, but has a lot of great support, Wix may be good for you. It is something that you can set up. They have this great Wix tool called ADI, which is can't remember, and artificial design intelligence, they call it. So it's where you put in, you answer a couple of questions, it'll spit you out a website, basically, and text and all. It's pretty powerful stuff. So this is great. You can design for mobile. You can have a look and change elements based on the mobile view. You can see Felicity here from the Doggy Diplomat. This is her website, which I helped her with. Yeah, there's a contact form down the bottom. Yeah, they're all elements that can be changed, that can be moved, rearranged. Photos can be changed. Anything can be put anywhere, really. So very powerful stuff. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot happening, and there's a lot to wrap your head around when you're using it for the first time. So it's definitely not the easiest thing to start off with. Not out of the box easy like Shopify or Square, but it is a great option for the right person who wants to do it themselves and wants some more flexibility. Yeah, there's all different menu options. Got images, you can manage pages, you can add new pages. So this is just one page at the moment. It's just different sections on a page using anchors. You can have pages as well. You could have a standalone contact page or about page or services or whatever. But this, we chose just to go with one home page with this one. I'm not sure what I'm going to look at here. Oh yeah, this is where you could add a section in. It's as easy as this. Bang, content has been added to my website, and now all I've got to do is change the text to align with my brand or my products. So yeah, while it looks easy to edit, and it's fine so long as you don't start playing around with the formatting. Once you start playing with the formatting and sizes and positioning, it can throw things out, especially on mobile view. So it can be easy as long as something doesn't break, I suppose is the best way to put it. Sometimes things can break. Yeah, the Wix ADI is really amazing. There's a whole article about it here, and they've got a video where you can watch how powerful it is. I've used it. It's very, very good. But we're running out of time. We're already 4 minutes over. I'll go through the last walkthrough. This is WordPress, what I use most often because it's the most cost effective. This is the dashboard of my own website. And you can see the menu on the left. This stuff in the middle there is just summaries of different apps that are installed on the website. So there's some Google stats and some security stats and things. But the most likely thing you'll do is to edit page content. So each page on the website, I've actually only got two published, which is the home page and a page for my templates. And I use a website builder called Elementor, which is just an app that I plug into the website, which makes it easy to build things. And it makes it operate much the same as Wix, what we just saw actually. So I can edit things, I can just click and change the text. Like that. And drag and drop things. This is called what you see is what you get editing. It's live editing. You can see this is really showing you what it looks like for a visitor in real time, although it's not actually happening in real time until I click the publish button. There's no changes that anyone will see. I can insert media, I can add images from a library, I can upload files. Like I've written there, it's great to use these templates to start off with and editing them, but as soon as you start making something from scratch, it's a little bit harder for a couple of reasons. It's just getting it all working correctly and viewed correctly, but it's also the creative nous that it needs to come up with the formatting for things to look good and to work. And even I'm not the greatest with big projects. I pair up with someone more competent than me because yeah, sometimes it's just some people's products and businesses just demand a little bit more creativity that I'm not yet capable of. But for getting started and having a simple start, you can see it says putting elements in. It's quite easy. Added an image there. You can add a video. That's a great placeholder video. You just put in a YouTube link, or there are other sources you can choose from. You'll see once a element is placed in, drag and dropped, it opens the editing dialog box on the left there, and there's a bunch of options to customize it. You can center it, make it bigger, change the color, change the font, anything really. Add spacing to it. Yeah, center it. I think I add some fancy stuff to the section in a minute. Oh yeah, I can add a border. Again, this looks easy. It even took me a while in the beginning to figure all this out and find out where all the settings are. So it's not something that anyone could just magically do it like I do it. And even I don't do it as good as other people can do it. You know, there's always someone better. There's always someone worse and always someone better. But there's just so many cool things you could do. Here you'll see once I change the color. You can have all these section dividers, custom graphics, or not custom, these are set graphics and stencils that they use. Yeah, stuff you can make to use to make your website really yours and really stand out as something totally different. Change the color, change the position, all sorts of things. Once you're done, you'd save it, but I've just left and gone to the dashboard. The other thing you'll do if you're using WordPress is potentially do blog posts, and that's under posts, which is up further, like here. Yeah, and you'd go through, and it's much the same as creating pages. You just add a post, and then you know, you can have content on your website. It might be a news update post, or it might be events that are happening close by in your region. And so a tip for WordPress is obviously local hosting. It's because you can choose your own host, whereas the others you can't. Hosting is the bricks and mortar of your site, so make it a strong choice. Australian hosting is faster for local customers, because you've got to think about it. If I'm searching for and viewing a website from Wangaratta, and I land on a website that's hosted in the United States, well, that data transfer that's happening in that exchange is going via a massive undersea cable from here to continental USA. So there are delays in that happening, and Google will penalize for those delays, and people just don't like it. If they're sitting there waiting for your website to load, people are impatient. So find one that's hosted in Australia. They're fast, they're often cheaper anyway, and it's free to transfer. If you've got an existing website, a WordPress site or a self-hosted site, it's actually free to transfer a lot of the times, especially to the one I recommend, which is ventureip.com.au, or service that I offer as well. So great tip there. And also plugins. Plugins are key to WordPress success because they're like apps that you install on your phone. Infinite possibilities. Most important ones are site builder like Elementor, what I use there, SEO, and image optimization to make sure a lot of people upload images which are really large file sizes. That slows your website down. So if you use an image optimization tool, it compresses it and makes them load a lot quicker. And if you're really geeky, you can access that. That's my live WordPress plugin list that I use for my new builds. And if you just use those, you'll be fine. Most of them are free. Yes, and here someone asked earlier about template or something. They're called themes in WordPress. And the theme gives you out-of-the-box look, feel, and functionality. They're often created by professional, well, they are created by professional developers. Many are free for basic functionality, and which is all that's mostly needed for small businesses to get started. Don't get too fancy. I use a common formula, and that's to use the Astra theme with starter templates, and they're live links to articles that will explain those in detail. You can have a look in your own time. It's great. You know, I build a lot of websites using those starter templates. I have access to professional premium ones, I think they're called, because I paid for them. Yeah, it's great. You can create an amazing website with all the text and stuff put in. You've just got to make some changes. Yeah, you can have a website in a weekend. Well, we're done. Only 12 minutes over. Thank you very much. I know that was a lot to take on board. If you're all still with us, well done, you made it. That's actually one of the more succinct webinars that I've done. They normally go over by quite a bit. There's just so much to discuss. There's so much knowledge that I could share that would probably be more overwhelming. Like I said, I'm happy to answer any questions that you want to email through. You can try and call, but it might be difficult to get a hold of me. Best off going to my website and booking a time, which you can do for free. Like I said, you've got a high chance of me being available if you book a time slot in between me looking after my daughter and other clients, obviously. So yeah, make sure if you've got any questions, ask. There's a wealth of knowledge in this region and further afield. Yeah, most of the time we want your business to succeed. It's good for everyone and it's good for the region, and especially in these times. getting over the COVID slump. There's only good things that can come from now, I think, once we're all back on track. So yeah, without any further ado, that's me. Anyone got any questions? I did see, I got some thank yous. Thank you for the interesting presentation. Cool. No more questions? Doesn't seem to be.
No more questions. Yeah, I'd like to say thank you on behalf of everyone here. It was definitely very interesting. I've got, you told me not to take notes, but I've got pages and pages of notes. So lots of takeaways there. Some really good points that I picked up was to summarize everything on your home page, because I liked what you said, that people don't want to have to think when they're on your website. So put it all out there for them.
Yep.
Use short, concise, simple language, and yeah, focus on those top 3 services and products. So yeah, good luck everyone with building your website, and you know, get in touch with Jason, get in touch with me at Council, and tomorrow or in the coming days I will shoot out the recording and the presentation, which will have a downloadable link to that workbook there for you. So yeah, thank you all very much for attending.
Thank you. And thank you very much, Council, for hosting me. And thank you, everyone. Have a great evening and good luck with your business. Hopefully I hear from some of you soon.